Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
And Luke, this week, I'm going to let you do the introduction because this is a very Luke topic.
Well, I don't know if it's a Luke topic. So, good friend of mine, fan of the show.
Big fan.
Big fan of the show. Really big fan of the show, actually. Steve K. Says to me the other day, hey, have you guys ever done anything on, like, electric bikes and, like, you know, personal mobility things? And I looked at the archives, and we didn't. So
I feel like if he was really a big fan, he would know that we haven't covered that.
yeah, well, okay.
Sometimes you forget.
Maybe he's not a huge fan, but he listens to the show. So he was riding a bike at work. One of his buddies has this electric bike, and he said it was like insanely fast, fun to drive. He uses it to get back and forth up near the University of Pittsburgh, and it seemed like a great idea. And then I proposed it. You kind of poo-pooed it, but you decided we should do it anyway.
Sometimes I have to throw you a bone.
Well, you're the boss.
That's right. So we're looking at personal transporters. So not just electric bikes, right?
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
Anything that kind of falls into that. It's not a car. It's not a bicycle that you power by yourself or a motorcycle.
It's in fact It's a class of compact electric or internal combustion vehicles for transporting an individual. Usually they consider them to be at speeds less than 25.
Wow. You pulled that right from Wikipedia, didn't you?
Straight from Wiki. But I guess maybe we'll go higher than that, right? A little faster sometimes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So what I have, so these are just not every single category, but these are going to be electric bikes. Electric scooters. So if you think of like the
3-year-olds,
the Razor scooters, so imagine you just electrify those things.
They have birds. Is that what it's called?
Birds and limes, and there's a whole bunch of them out there. So these are electric skateboards. These are hoverboards. These are anything that basically gets you from point A to point B without using a car.
Do you think, the hover round, it's the old person mobile?
The hover? I don't think
Go in my hover round.
I have no idea.
Inside, outside, all over town.
So these are the scooters for like old people.
Right. Does that count?
No, because I think that's more like when you get to the store, you pull out your hover
Oh, no.
round.
People buy these hover rounds and drive them all over town.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, anyways, maybe they don't count.
So a couple things about these in all the research that I've done, my crack research team.
A lot of research.
Is most of the companies that build these things, they have a very lofty ambition. It's always they want to reduce traffic in urban cities. They want to reduce pollution. They want to, reduce our dependency on foreign oil.
Bunch of do-gooders.
Yeah, they tend to be do-gooders. That's probably the most accurate way of describing these.
That's how they like to be known.
It is do-gooders, but the problem is, and we'll talk at the end. I think most of them fail at doing this, and
doing good or at making their product useful.
I think they fail at meeting what their initial goal was of like making the world a better place.
All right, very good. Okay. Can I give a brief history?
Yeah,
on this stuff?
I'd love to hear it.
Because in my mind, this stuff just showed up like yesterday. These things did. But it turns out that's not the case.
Okay.
Did you know that the first personal transporter was made in 1915? It was called the Autoped.
You're talking like gasoline powered, right?
So let me tell you about the Autoped. Are you interested?
I'm super interested in the
tell.
Autoped because I had no idea we were going to gasoline. I thought we were sticking with battery.
Well, hold on. Yeah. It was an early motor scooter or motorized scooter, and it was manufactured by the Autoped company in Long Island City, New York, which kind of makes sense to me that you would want these type of devices in New York.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So it was made from 15 to 21. The engine was an air-cooled 4-stroke 155 cc engine over the front wheel. So that's cool. And it came with a fancy headlamp and a tail lamp, a horn for you to honk at people,
honk, honk.
And a little toolbox to fix it if it broke.
My guess is they needed the toolbox. It
probably too much, yeah. It was developed during the wartime, so with gasoline rationing, this was kind of developed.
So this didn't have an app where you could kind of track your...
I'm not certain. My research did not look into that, but I feel like the answer is no, it did not have an app. It wasn't widely distributed. But you said let's keep this not to, like, we didn't think gas was getting involved. An electric version was also available.
Ooh.
And it had the motor over the front wheel as well.
Okay.
So we've had the electric car conversations before.
Yes.
We have a whole episode on it. Check it out.
We do.
And we know that electric cars were around for a long time, and they just kind of got, I feel like actively removed from the market so that gasoline could take over.
Well, I think Big Oil basically squashed anybody that was involved with electric vehicles until our longtime listener and friend Elon Musk really came along.
Personal friend.
No
longer chairman of the board of Tesla. A couple other things closer to our time. Dean Kamen.
Dean Cain. This is from the
Superman
right?
and Lois and Clark. Yes. Yeah. I think he played football somewhere too. Some Ivy League school. Penn, maybe? I don't know. I can't remember.
So Dean
Kamen applied for his first patent for a, quote, human transporter in 1994. That's known as the Segway. It started being produced in late 2001. And so that kind of adds up with my timeline a little bit more. And the first deliveries to customers was in 2002. And that still seems a little early to me, but because I didn't remember those Segway tours going on anywhere. But you're old, so your memory's probably better about those times.
So I remember when the Segway came out, and it was like mind-blowing. Like you get on this thing, there's no brakes, you lean forward, you lean left, you lean right. Like I specifically remember when those things came out, and like everybody wanted them. But the problem was I was probably a sophomore in high school in 91, not to date myself. You were still pooping in your pants.
Oh, whoa.
But I remember like everybody wanted one, but they were like $7,000.
Were they really?
Like it was not like.
Or a lot. Was $7,000 like?
It was like $1 million.
$1 million.
My guess
because you were in high school.
With inflation, it's like $1 million now.
Inflation. Yeah.
So I don't even know what inflation is. But yeah, so I think the challenge was these things were so expensive and so difficult to make, and like the technology that they were using to build them just really couldn't support, I would say, typical consumer applications. So
okay,
I have a fun fact about Segway.
Oh my goodness, please lay it on me.
So I remember when this happened. So this guy by the name of Jim Helsland. He's a
Jim
UK,
Henson.
Yeah,
he makes Muppets.
Jim Henson.
Uh-huh.
So he's a UK entrepreneur, philanthropist. He buys Segway back in 2009.
Wow.
Off of Dean Cain's from Lois and Clark, and in 2010 he drives a Segway off a cliff and dies.
Oh no!
Remember hearing about that?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, so he bought it a year later. He was driving around in like this all-wheel drive version of the Segway. It had like big knobby wheels.
Yeah.
And he must have leaned forward a little too hard and
you got to be pretty confident in your Segway skills to get that close.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that crazy?
It wasn't like product failure or anything. It was was consumer failure.
Yeah, I didn't look at the details. He may have had like a heart attack while driving, and
I don't want to like
forward.
make a joke about it because that's so terrible. But that never would have happened to Dean Cain because he could have just like flown back up the hill.
Flew away.
Okay, let's move on, okay? A little bit more history.
Shoot.
Again, more modern, kind of like where we got to where we are today. Focus Designs released the first commercially available self-balancing, which is a big part of all this, unicycle in 2008. 2012, Z-Board raised nearly 30 times its target money for a balance-controlled electric skateboard on the Kickstarters. Maybe they will.
A lot of this stuff appeared to start on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we missed the boat. Like, if you and I tried doing it now, there's just too many players out there.
That's what the problem was.
You know what we should come up with? A skateboard that doesn't have a motor.
I don't think that's even possible, is it? Last but not least.
Retro board. Sorry.
It's like the retro Nintendo's coming out.
Someone just stole this idea.
I know.
Guaranteed.
In 2013, February, a self-balancing scooter was launched on Kickstarter and made all of its money it needed. And that's where I'm ending my history, because now we have all the ridiculous things out there.
Yeah, so...
all of these stupid, ugly transportation devices.
Well, I don't know if they're all stupid and ugly. So I want to do a little more on how they're actually constructed. And this is a super kind of high level description because they're all slightly different.
So before we do that, could we take a quick break for a word from our sponsor?
I'm assuming that it's not Segway based off of us dogging the founder or recent owner's demise.
That is, it is not Segway. I thought it might be Kickstarter, but it turns out they just take money. They don't actually give money. So it's not them either. Yeah. But we don't have one again. What is this like?
I would like to give my buddy Steve at the beginning of the show. I mentioned a shout out. I know he's not on your list, but this is literally his idea for the show.
Steve, thanks for the support, man.
Steve K, thanks for the idea. And if you don't comment or like or review us, I will be severely upset.
If he's not a reviewer already, I'll be disappointed. Trevor L wrote in.
Good old TL.
He says that we're doing great work.
Thanks, Trevor.
And we're getting young people into STEM careers, or like encouraging them to do so.
That was our goal, I think.
Yeah.
I think
it was up there.
If you look at our charter that you and I worked on.
Our mission statement.
Our mission statement.
Yes. Another shout out.
Shoot.
I'm giving one to our friend Trevor E. that we know and love.
Why do we have so many Trevors?
That's why I threw him in there, so that we could have another Trevor. This is T-Dog, yeah. I wanted to give his channel on YouTube a shout out, Concerning Reality. Go there and you can find all these interesting videos on all sorts of like science and technology and weird stuff.
So I thought that like we kind of compete with him a little bit in some cases, but the interesting thing is he is so much better at things, I think, than we are. He makes these really incredible like animated videos that have tons of graphics in them. He puts way more effort into what he's doing than I think you and I do.
But you notice his face doesn't show up either because we're all ugly.
Well, he's not as good looking as we are.
Right.
I think is probably the reason.
It seems likely.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to shout out, why don't you email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com and say, hey, I want a shout out.
Subscribe.
Yeah. Oh, man. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen.
All the cool kids are doing it.
It's true. A lot of them. And write us a review. That will make us famous. And then we'll be able to quit our jobs and make more podcast episodes for you.
Could you imagine us like going into your ear holes like more than once a week?
We could have our own channel like on XM radio or Sirius or whatever it is.
So iHeartRadio. And I'm just saying, I'm not sure if we're on iHeartRadio. They have this thing where you nominate like podcasts.
Oh yeah, for their awards.
For their awards, I encourage all of our listeners. I don't even know if we're on the iHeartRadio's list, but
me neither.
Do us as a write-in because it would be interesting if we got.
Yeah, write us in, and then we can win overall. Like,
so go to iHeartRadio.com, wherever it is. They got this awards nomination thing for podcasts
with their millions of views every episode.
So
we're up there. Yeah, get us in there. Do your job. Okay, moving on. Let's hear about how these things are made. Luke.
Okay, so it's more not how they're made. It's the typical components. So these always have, at least the new ones, they always have a super small, powerful electric motor. And the reason why they need to be small is...
Does it have to be small?
Yeah, because usually these things are, carried under your arm, they're thrown in your backpack. The idea is their personal mobility. They're not, these big honking motorcycles or electric cars or anything like that. So it's typically a small, powerful motor. They're typically powered by almost always, just because of their size, lithium-ion batteries, so rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. They're usually self-balancing if they happen to be those things that you stand on and you lean. Some have remote controls that control, driving back and forth. They have gyroscopes and sensors to control things such as direction, acceleration, and braking. And none of this, and we have to do a little bit of backstory, and then we can go through some of the options. None of this would be optional, or possible rather, without lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah, shout out.
I remember whenever I was in, 9th, 10th grade, and I had this little remote control car that had these 8 lithium-ion batteries, and I would drive the car for 2.5 minutes, and the batteries would die.
That was the best.
And then I would have to charge it for 3 hours.
Wasn't that disappointing?
So I think the reason why we're seeing all of this happening in the last 4 or 5 years is lithium-ion battery technology, how fast they charge, the amount of output they have is literally it's doubling almost every year if you look at the statistics. So lithium-ion batteries were proposed by a British chemist, M. Stanley Whittingham. Binghamton University back in the 70s.
He just sounds British. M. Stanley
I
Whittingham.
just want to put a letter in front of my
Right?
name. And there's tons of development that happened between the 70s and 1991.
Hold on. While working at Exxon?
Yeah.
Doesn't that seem kind of backwards?
Yeah, probably. My guess is
They fired him.
Yeah, I'm sure he was fired. So, and nothing really happened commercially until 1991 when Sony and a Japanese corporation released the first commercial lithium-ion battery for consumer use. And interesting fact, and this is 2016 because I couldn't find any 2018 facts.
Hit me.
As of 2016, the global lithium-ion battery production capacity. So in
Holy
2016, that's a mouthful. All of the batteries produced up until in 2016 had the capacity to make 28 gigawatt hours.
Excuse me?
Energy. Yeah, 28 gigawatts.
What was it called? A what?
A gigawatt.
A what?
A
gigawatt? A gigawatt, Luke.
Gigawatt, whatever.
No, I just wanted you to say it. Go ahead.
So, which is 1 billion watt hours. So 28 billion watt
It
hours.
seems like a lot.
And so
That seems like a lot.
So I know. So here's a little bit of math. So 1 gigawatt is equal to 3.4 billion BTU. So a BTU is something you probably understand more than anything.
It's almost like a British thermal unit.
Exactly, a British thermal unit. The average home's furnace is rated for a high efficiency one for around 50,000 BTUs. That's the average. So that means 1 gigawatt of power could sustain 70,000 homes. Do that 28 times. That means in 2016 alone, you could power almost 2 million homes with lithium-ion batteries. And
You
this
could
is
heat them.
And this is 2 years ago.
You could heat them.
Yeah, to heat them. So I'm just the energy's used a little different.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that's a lot.
And that was 2
That's a
years
lot of
ago.
homes.
It's a lot of homes.
Wow, that's impressive.
And the crazy thing too is they're all still the little batteries. They're all AA's. Like if you cut a Tesla in half, there's just a whole bunch of AA batteries in series. That's all it is. Like you would think they would just make like one big battery. No, they just take a whole bunch of the AA's.
They're just a bunch of Duracells.
Line them up in series, and that's what lithium-ion batteries are. They're the little batteries that like you put in your flashlight.
Were you a Duracell or
Ever ready?
not ever ready?
Ever ready?
Who is the Energizer?
I'm an Energizer guy.
Okay, you like the
Yeah,
bunny?
I'm the Energizer.
Okay. Do you want a lithium battery fun fact?
Shoot.
This is how they work a little bit. They send lithium ions from the negative electrode to the positive electrode
Okay.
during discharge, and then back the other direction when charging. Think about that.
My brain hurts thinking about
Does it? Does it hurt?
because I would say 90% of the words just left your mouth. I don't understand.
That's not good, Luke. We need to work on your vocabulary.
Well, I'm not a triple E or a double E or an E.
You don't have any E's
I don't
in
have
your
any
title.
E's.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe one E. Did you know they're also coming out with a new lithium polymer battery that's going to be bigger and better than what we have going on today?
I feel like that's a tall order. They're pretty good today.
Yeah, I agree, but they're great for your lightweight needs like we have for here. We're lightweighting everything, especially on a personal mobile device like
we
this.
are.
All right, so do you want to talk about these other things a little bit more? Or are you
so
good?
I want to talk about all the different kind of options you have out there, and this isn't by far all of them. So we mentioned Segway. They started this whole thing primarily in 2001, personal mobility. The next one that I looked into was one called One Wheel. So this is basically, imagine a skateboard with a big fat wheel in the middle.
I saw that, yeah.
This one seems pretty logical to me. I was a semi-pro skateboarder.
I could see that.
Not.
On your electric skateboard.
So I just fell a lot. So it's basically a skateboard deck with a huge wheel in the middle. There's no brake. There's no remote control. It's all based off of how far you tip forward and how far you tip backwards to control the direction. These things have 500-watt motors. They can go 20 miles an hour, and they have a range of up to 18 miles. And the cool thing about these one wheels that's different than just about every other one is because of the type of wheel they have.
The one wheel?
The one wheel, it can go anywhere. Like it can go on sand,
Anywhere?
and rock, and concrete. Like
Up a mountain?
I've seen the videos of them going up like on like hiking trails. I mean, obviously you can't like go huge, but like on the beach, on sand, like all these other ones, they're typically really narrow wheels, and like when you run in the sand or rocks.
So would you say worse than a four-wheeler?
Yeah.
Okay.
So next one is all the cheap hoverboards. So I know you remember this.
All of them.
So back in 2013, the market just was flooded with these super cheap. They were typically made in China. There was like 3 companies in China that were making these, and every kid in the world wanted them for Christmas. And then they got them, and then they burned down their homes because they were using cheap lithium-ion batteries, or the production methods were really poor, and they weren't soldering things properly. And every time you would charge these things, they would explode and catch on fire. You remember all that craziness that happened.
Burnt down homes was an epidemic.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Christmas epidemic.
And then airlines were like, you can't
do that.
You can't bring these hoverboards on the planes. So major things. So now I think they're much safer. I think there was a ton of stuff that happened to make these safer.
You still can't bring those batteries on planes, though.
But there's a lithium-ion battery in my phone. What's the difference?
Well, that you can, but like the ones that, like the suitcases that have them, like you have to like disconnect it or something.
And then you got to bring it in with you as a carry-on. You can't
it's
put
weird.
it in the belly.
In the belly.
In the belly. So this one is an interesting one. I watched a couple news episodes about this one, and this is Bird and Lime scooters. So this is like, imagine a Razor scooter, but it's electric.
It is.
And basically, this is a way to reduce what they say urban traffic and all the pollution and all the different things that are happening inside of these major cities. So they're in somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 cities in the U.S. and 8 cities worldwide. So what you do, you get an app, you find out where the Bird is or where the Lime is, you go up to it, you see the charge level, you unlock it, you get on it, and you ride it. When you're done with it, you park it somewhere, and you get charged like anywhere from 15 to 20 cents a mile. So the crazy thing is, all of these cities hate them, because here was Bird's go-to-market strategy. Let's take about 1,000 scooters and dump them in downtown San Francisco and leave them, and these people are going to be responsible. So apparently what people were doing is they're like riding them, they die, they leave them in the middle of the street, they're riding them on the sidewalk, and all these cities despise these Bird and Lime. There's a whole bunch of other ones that are doing the same thing they do.
I just saw them in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh, they were
and
there.
You know what drunk college kids need are electric scooters, especially in the winter. It just seems like a killer idea to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing too. All of these don't take into account like necessarily like winter. Right?
Yeah.
Like
there's snow.
What happens in the snow?
It's a scooter.
So these cities hate them, but interestingly, they do nothing other than drop these off. So they have programs where you and I can be called Bird Chargers.
Oh.
Where we go take our trucks and we grab like 35 of these Bird or Lime scooters, throw them in the back of the truck, take them to our house, charge them, and then just throw them back in the streets all charged up.
Do we get paid then?
You get paid to be a charger.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it's like, what are they doing other than basically leaving skateboards or scooters all over the place?
I don't know. I got nothing.
And then I have one more that I want to talk about that I actually really like, actually. So this one is the boosted board. So Casey Neistat has this huge YouTube 365 video thing he does every single day, and he's a big boosted board proponent. That's the first time I heard of it, was watching his show. So these started in 2012. They got $12 million in funding through Kickstarter and some other means. These things cost this is a skateboard, so this is the one I like the most. So this is a skateboard that costs anywhere from $750 on the low end to $1,600 on the high end. These have 2,000-watt motors in them, which is bananas. They can climb a hill with a 25% grade. They go 24 miles an hour. They have a 14-mile range, and they only weigh 15 pounds, which is crazy to me. And this one has a remote, so it's forwards, backward, braking. They have regenerative braking, which you kind of see in electric cars, so that's kind of cool. It does regenerative braking.
I've seen a couple with that. That is interesting.
And these are kind of cool because this is one, you throw it on, like you own these. You throw it in your backpack, you put it under your arm, you take it into work. It doesn't take up a ton of space. It's not a big nuisance. So these ones I actually like.
I think with all of these, the coolest thing about all of it is the self-balancing sensors going on,
Yeah.
and just the way that they work, that they can like detect the RPMs of the individual wheels, like if there's multiple wheels going on, and it sends it to the gyroscope and the speed control boards, and it just kind of figures it out, and then you don't fall, which is amazing. I did try and look up how gyroscopes work, and I would say go find someone smarter to explain that to you.
I think you should talk about brushless motors. I see there, because that's a big thing. That they all have brushless motors now.
Pretty much all of them do.
And the reason why you want brushless motors versus a brushed motor.
I'm going to go with, first, it's a DC motor, because we just did an episode on Tesla and AC power, so that was interesting. So they have permanent magnets attached to this moving hub, which is kind of cool. How do people come up with this anyways? But anyways, it turns around like a fixed position and is super efficient. It gives good speed and torque characteristics, and it's super light, which is, again, pretty much the biggest thing it has going for it. It's built into the wheel itself, which has helped, so that eliminates the gears, it eliminates driving belts, therefore it lasts a whole lot longer, and it doesn't take repairs as much, which is great. And usually it's about, 250 to 500 watts, unless you're using your crazy boosted board, which is probably why it's boosted, right? So it gives great performance, even for big fatties like us, and it can go up an incline as well, so not just on flat roads. And that's my spiel on all of it.
Yeah, and I think the reason why they moved to brushless motors was like tradition, like, and you see this in drills a lot. So if you go to Home Depot and Lowe's and you're looking at drills, everything nowadays is brushless, and the reason being is there's less maintenance, and the brushless, apparently there was some physical contact that was occurring in like traditional drill motors or brushed motors, and what they did is they eliminate that. So these things are super efficient. They have higher output with less input, like virtually no maintenance. These things last forever.
I feel like I said all of that.
Yeah, but you didn't talk about like the differences between
Luke,
brushed and brushless.
Can I trust you to do Luke's rant in about a minute and a half?
Yes, you can.
Let's hear it.
Oh, you want it now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's my rant, and it kind of leads into our final question. I think we're going to answer here in a minute. Is what's wrong with just a pedal bike? What's wrong with walking? What's wrong with taking a bus? So you have all these entrepreneurs like trying to come up with the next best thing, and let's take something like a bicycle and electrify it. Let's take something like a skateboard and electrify it. I feel like
it's electric.
Boogie woogie woogie woo. You knew I was going to do that.
I was hoping.
I feel like we did that before.
Have we?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. So here's my thing. Get a bicycle. You know, it's a skill that you learn as a kid that's with you the rest of your life. All putting a motor on it does is make you a little lazy. Maybe you don't sweat when you get into work, or you're not sweating when you get home because you're not pedaling the bike as much. But is really exercise a bad thing, James?
I say stick with your car and give me my extra lane on Penn back.
You are such a hater. So my rant is, I think this is great, but I think that people need to just go out and get a bike or a skateboard and go that way.
All right. So is that actually the final question you wanted?
Yeah, I think...
Hold on. Before we do, I have one tiny little piece I wanted to cover.
Shoot.
Is that okay? Because
is.
I think this is very funny, and that's the Segway classifications around the globe.
Ooh.
Because apparently it's different. Hong Kong says self-balancing hoverboards are motor vehicles and require registrations and license.
Wow.
Japan says they're motorcycles due to the power output, but don't require registration. Saudi Arabia, interesting. They banned them altogether after they were seen on social media for the pilgrimage to Mecca. Did not want them anymore.
Your scooter to Mecca?
Yeah, right?
That's crazy.
Doesn't seem to mesh.
Yeah.
In Europe, the European Committee for Standardization is in the process of defining it for all of Europe, but right now it's by country.
Okay.
The Czech Republic says you can only move at the speed of the lane you're using. So like on a sidewalk, you can only go like walking speed.
And why would you use a Segway?
Or a cycling, you can go in the cycling lane speed. Germany is old and grumpy and says no on our public streets.
Okay.
Nay.
Wow.
The United States, of course, has to make it complicated and by state.
Yeah.
So California says, sure, if you're over 16, wear a helmet, wear knee pads, wear elbow pads, plant a tree along the way.
That's just the man telling us what to do.
New York City, on the other hand, has banned them altogether, which I can understand there. And then this is a shock, I'm sure. Mexico has no regulations on them.
Yeah.
So, check out your local country to figure out if you're allowed to
Yeah.
even use one of these things.
That's kind of crazy.
So hit me with your last
Okay,
question.
so I
Luke.
want us to both answer this question. So number one, is personal transportation devices like we've talked about, and maybe some that we missed, are they hitting the goal for which all these companies say they're doing, which is reducing pollution, eliminating traffic, making the world a better place? And then what's the future? So like a two-part question. Go.
I think they're helping with, or they're approaching that goal, and they're reducing pollution maybe, and probably not. This pollution into creating them probably is more than they output. I go with no, but I guess if you want a nice pedestrian center, maybe they're nice.
Okay.
I go with no. Pittsburgh is a very vehicle-heavy city.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
old and clustery
Hilly
and
and-
hilly. These things don't really roll here.
So future, they're going to get bigger?
Future, fun fact for you.
Shoot.
2019, Oslo is looking to ban cars entirely from the
saw
city
that.
center. 2020, Madrid is. These are giant cities.
Yeah.
So in the future, yeah, there might be something to this,
Okay.
that some cities have this going on. I'd certainly see it as a European thing way
Yeah.
before it is here in America.
Okay, so here's my shtick.
Let's hear it.
I feel like they've all become toys.
Yeah, they are all
So
toys.
like if you look at Segway's website now, Segway is all about toys for kids for Christmas.
Is that right?
That are just really expensive.
Okay.
So I feel like every single one of these, they have these ambitions of being, altruistic and like solving all these economical and global challenges. And what they end up turning into is Christmas gifts for your kids that in 9 months will be
to the
sitting in their
landfill.
closet in a landfill because no one recycles batteries properly.
Right. Absolutely not. You just hide them in another box and throw them out.
Give it
Yeah.
to the garbage man. So I think they're a nuisance. I think that if you want to call it what it is, it's a toy for a kid and maybe something you do fun on the weekends. It's not solving any problems. And I think the future, I saw that exact, it's funny, I said the same thing. I agree with you. I think that as soon as cities start like making like city centers in certain areas like ultra pedestrian friendly and eliminating vehicles, I think you'll see people on bikes, and then you'll see lazy people on electric bikes, and you'll see hipsters on electric skateboards.
Yeah,
and,
the man's going to have to make this happen.
Yeah,
Like push it down.
yeah. Which is fine.
Sure. Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I think that then helps traffic and pollution.
But then these things get better again, and they're not toys.
Yeah.
They'll be more useful.
But I do think people are not ready to get rid of their car. Like,
Oh,
I
I'm
will
not.
never not.
I need to get more vehicles. Yeah.
On that note,
On that note, I do want to say, was it Scott that gave us this
Steve.
idea?
Steve K.
Steve K. Thank you. This was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and I appreciate the suggestion.
Yeah.
So hopefully you all learned something. Steve, maybe you did too, and I will talk to you later.
see ya. Is that what we're doing? Hey.